everyone, and welcome to African Exodus. I am your host, Tierney Cherie, coming to you live from Ghana, West Africa. So many of you probably have been asking the question, where have I been? Those of you who have been following the channel, previously African Esquire and briefly We Charge Colonialism for a long time, might have noticed that I've been noticeably absent. So today I'm going to just give you all an overview of where I've been, what I've been doing, and what I plan on doing on this particular channel going forward. As far as where have I been, a lot of things have happened in the last few months. A big one is I'm joyed to say that I have welcomed a new child into my life. So I had a son back in October. That has been obviously something that I've been putting a lot of energy towards, but I also had to take some time to just have a break and really reevaluate some of the things that I was talking about, why I was talking about it, the effectiveness of my message, and what I wanted to actually convey to the people. So for a while I've been in a teeter-totter kind of as far as what do I want to talk about, what do I really want to say, and I needed some time to just reevaluate that. So I have some notes here, and we're going to just go through as far as what this video is going to be about. It's going to be about African Exodus, which is going to be the next phase of this particular channel, and it's going to be different than what you might be used to from me, but I think it's going to be something that is going to be more fulfilling for me personally, and for those of you who decide to stick around, you might find it more engaging and more relevant to your life. Not just your life, but where things are going inside of the world that we're in. I want to give you a backstory of the channel African Esquire. Many of you probably know me from that channel that I started, this channel that I started. I think about over 5 years now. It's been going on really since I was in my LLM at law school. So that would have been about probably 7 years ago, where I really started putting out content. Initially, when I started this channel, I knew that I wanted to talk about things that were happening with African people and that I was not hearing spoken about as far as who was talking about our issues. A lot of things seemed like these established platforms who were saying what the Democratic Party wanted them to say, saying what this person wanted them to say, instead of like particularly about us from our perspective. And particularly from like a Black nationalist perspective and also a pan-Africanist perspective. There wasn't a lot of that on YouTube at the time, but there's a lot more now, you know, so, which is great. So at that time, I just wanted to give that side of things, you know, more voice. And, you know, luckily a lot of people gravitated towards that message. And I've been very blessed to just have engage with many of you about my views about things in America, particularly with African people. So that's how it started, and it wasn't initially me having an organization. I wasn't an organizer. I wanted to be in an organization when I first started on YouTube, but I just would literally like try to go out and be in organizations that I might have known of, and like for some reason like someone just didn't contact me, or I start learning more about the organization and like, oh, I'm not sure. So I really wasn't affiliated with anyone. But as I started on YouTube and I noticed that there was a way to engage with more people, I said, well, why not use that as a way to try to do organizing? And so I started 2 organizations. Some of you might remember the first one, Federation of African Liberation. And later on, after that didn't go too well, I started We Charge Colonialism, which is still on YouTube. So everyone definitely still go over there if you want to check out some of the same content that we've been putting out. So that was initially how it began and where African Esquire went to. The more that I started leaning towards organizing, the more that I wanted to kind of make the channel a conduit for organization, meaning not do anything that would upset the purpose. And because of that, I tried to make African Esquire TV very neutral, issue neutral. Even things that I straight up disagreed with, a lot of times I kept silent about. Even things that I felt or really felt strong conviction to speak out about, I kind of kept silent about that. Because to me, the ultimate goal was African unity. Because to me, at that time, that was the only way that we were going to see true decolonization. And, you know, my views have changed somewhat. Obviously, African unity is still important. But as far as that being the center of everything that I was doing, I've changed on some of that. But I was actually contacted by someone who I will shout out is an apostle who reached out. He just reached out to me randomly, Apostle Joshua Trent, who does missionary work over in Latvia. And he reached out to me on Instagram basically just because he's seen some of my videos, he's seen me on Black Power Media, and he liked that I was a Christian, but also that I was a Pan-Africanist, and I was speaking from that perspective. So a few things that happened whenever he reached out to me is that he started giving me some information and perspectives about the issues that I talk about that I really was not accustomed to. One thing was the issue of racism, and something that he told me that really opened my eyes. He said, whenever it comes to the issues of racism and white supremacy, a lot of times we're dealing with the occult. And I didn't have that as a view at that time, but then he started giving me some sources to look into, and I started looking into things on my own, you know, doing my own research and just seeing, okay, something feels right about what he's saying, but I have to look into it more for myself. And it's true, really. If you look into a lot of the structural things that are oppressing African people, the institutions, these people are being controlled, or these people are controlling, and we're being controlled by a system that really is ran by elements of the occult. So even if you go back to the Nazis, for example, they were well-known occultists. A lot of the top Nazi engineers even attested to them contacting the supernatural as far as what they were doing to actually prevail in their agenda. When you go to the founding fathers of the United States, them too, they were occultists. They were Freemasons. If you look into their beliefs, the Freemasons come directly from an organization known as the Knights Templar, and the Knights Templar is a Masonic organization that literally had allegiance to Baphomet. So those are things that we're going to go into in another video. I'm just giving you some background. So the more I researched, the KKK, so many of these organizations, they weren't just working alone. It seemed as though there was another element, something else that was happening that I wasn't accustomed to thinking about. And so that gives me a different perspective as someone who has dealt with the supernatural, and I have. Someone who has experienced the supernatural. If these things that we're facing as African people go beyond the flesh, go beyond what we're used to dealing with, and go towards another side, the supernatural side, I knew that no matter what I said or what I did, absent the power of Yah, the Most High, that nothing that I was doing was going to actualize towards what I thought it would. And because I have had, again, experiences with different things, and I'm sure we'll get into them going forward, I know that there's certain things that you can't deal with as far as the demonic and the spiritual realm without having the backing of the Almighty. So those are things that I know. So that kind of gives me a different perspective now on everything I've been doing. Have I been doing things and talking about things that really didn't have the power to combat the issues that I've been talking about, which again leads to further disillusionment with what I was doing in my approach to handling issues of neutrality, of being neutral. I was being neutral, I believe, to a detriment to not just the message, but honestly to the people. Another thing that Apostle Trent did is he introduced me to a preacher. Some of you might know him. If you don't know him, I encourage you. Many of his videos are online. You can research them. A pastor named Pastor Stephen Darby. And this is a pastor who I believe you should check him out because his message, I believe he died for his message. He passed away a couple years ago under, what I believe is the timing of the things he was talking about and the realness of the message, the rawness. I don't believe it was some type of coincidental passing, but he did pass a few years ago, and I believe he passed because of the stuff he was talking about. So just that, check him out. And many things that he talks about are some things that I've known about before as far as the Illuminati, the Freemasons, but other things that I had not seriously considered. One being understanding the oppression of African people being linked directly to us being descendants of the children of Israel. This is something that I've always stayed away from. Okay, again, with me, obviously, I've said many times on this channel, I'm a believer in Christ. People say Christian, that's the label that's given to us. And because of that, I've obviously had a background inside of understanding things of the Bible, understanding things of Hebrew culture. And from studying on my own, I know that the Hebrew people were not the Caucasian people that have been depicted to us, but I obviously know that these are people who are African people. And I'll get into that very soon with follow-up videos on this channel. So I had some understanding that, you know, we've been lied to about the Hebrew people, but every time that I had a Hebrew Israelite, someone who took on that label, come on my channel, or people say, you know, we're the children of Yah, stuff like that, I kind of stayed away from it because of the timing of the message. My understanding was that these were people who kind of like were ADOS and FBA, or were Native Black American type folk who did not want to deal with the fact that we are African, and tried to use that as a way to subvert the issue. You know, to basically, I don't want to be Black, I don't want to be African. Instead, I want to be something else. And that's what what I put the Hebrew Israelite movement. I said these are people who are just not in love with being Africans. I now know that while there are elements of that with some folk, that's actually not the case. A lot of people are proud Africans. A lot of people also are proud Israelites and understand that the African plight is the Israelite plight. So that's one thing that I actually became introduced to from looking at Pastor Darby's messages, and that's why I say I've been taking time to study, because I did not want to put out a message that I did not believe, and it was something that I've always stayed away from, but I had to do due diligence research to be able to sit here and speak about something. So that's another thing that I've been doing while I've been away. Let me back up a little bit and say that, as I said, greetings from Ghana. So me and my family have repatriated to Africa, and that is a part of the African Exodus, but that's not the totality of it. The African Exodus, what this channel will be talking about, is not just the go back to Africa type of message, but it's actually a become separate type of message to African people, that we have to understand that those of us who are wrapped into the system have put ourselves into a position where we are going to go down with the system. I've always had that belief that those who are so entrenched with America, some people are just so in love with America, you're going to go down with that ship. That ship is going down very soon. And whether it happens in my lifetime or my child's lifetime or their children's lifetime, we know very much from the signs, from things that we're seeing in the weather, from things that we're seeing in the political sphere, that America will very soon be a desolate place that has been prophesied to be. So I want to give you all an understanding of what the current message is of this channel. Some things will definitely stay the same as far as giving political commentary, but other things will be very different. Because of that, I understand some of you will not necessarily want to stick around, and that's absolutely understood. If it's not for you, it's not for you. And obviously, I know that the message could be very unpopular with certain people who might have been drawn to the neutrality of this channel, but I understand that. And like I said, if you are opting to leave the channel, thank you for your support thus far. And I definitely hope that you come to the truth on your own. So I'm going to say there's two scriptures really that probably most inspire where we're going with this channel. I'm going to start with Zechariah 2:6-9. You there, flee from the land of the north, declares the Lord, because I have spread you out like the four winds of heaven, declares the Lord. You Zion, escape, you who are living with the daughter of Babylon. For the Lord of armies says this, after glory he has sent me against the nations that plunder you. For the ones who touches you touches the apple of my eye. For behold, I am going to wave my hand over them so that they will be plunder for their slaves. Then you will know that the Lord of armies has sent me. The other scripture, and I'm not going to go into the whole one because the whole chapter is, you know, really what we should be talking about, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to just read a part of it. That's Revelation 18:4-24. After these things, I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and was illuminated from his glory. He cried out with a mighty voice, saying, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place of demons and a prison of every unclean spirit, a prison of every unclean and hateful bird. For all the nations have fallen because of the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality, and the kings of the earth have committed acts of sexual immorality with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich from the excessive wealth of her luxury. I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, so that you will not participate in her sins and receive any of her plagues. For her sins have piled up as high as heaven, and God has remembered her offenses. So if there were any things that you got from this, if you maybe missed it, let me just say the one is that Babylon is falling. But what is Babylon? That's the world system that we're in. That includes and is led by the United States of America. That includes and is led by the nations, the European nations, the NATO nations. That includes the Catholic Church and also many inside of the mainstream church in America. That includes the Western system. That includes the banking system. That includes so many systems that we basically have been entrenched in. That system is falling very soon. And I would even go as far as saying if you are living inside of places that are associated with Babylon, particularly the United States or Europe, understand that the place where you're living is literally cursed. If you look at the scriptural evidence, this place is cursed. And if you look at what's happening in the wind, if you look at what's happening to the society, if you look at how the society is crumbling before your eyes, that curse is coming into a fulfillment. Also, you should understand about Babylon that even though Babylon is becoming plunder to its slaves, even though it will be destroyed, I believe that the system absolutely knows that it's coming to an end, but they look at this end as a rebirth. They look at it as a rebrand. Because of it, we're seeing so many things happen in the world as far as whether it's with the UN and different international organizations, whether it's with this new push for digital currency, whether it's the push with the World Economic Forum, so many of the same systems that we've talked about in a colonial context. These systems are looking to make this destruction something that's going to be a betterment for the system itself. So it might appear as though something good is happening even when something bad is happening. Excuse the wind. The last thing that I will point to for this channel is that we, the children of the Most High, are being called out of Babylon. And this is something that might be controversial to certain people who think that we're going to be removed by some type of divine ordinance. I believe that that is absolutely the truth, but I also believe that many of us have to get together and do some work in the meantime to get out of the system. So we're going to be making the channel about those three things mostly, and of course we'll still hit on some other things. So as far as the format of the channel, on Tuesdays, that will be the day that I live stream the full version of the weekly show. So that will include 4 segments. The first segment, Africa and World News, will be much like what you might be accustomed to on African Esquire TV. The second one, Set Apart. That's going to be a lot more different. It's going to be probably a lot more raw. That segment is going to focus on the fact that we have to leave the system, and so we need to do some lifestyle changes. Lifestyle changes could be anything from our diet, could be anything from the products that we use, but it could also be things like being able to feed yourself, basically having a sustainable lifestyle. That's going to be the big theme of that segment. So that will be the second one. The third one will be Hidden Revelations. We're going to talk about things that are hidden inside of this world system, some things that can be uncovered through research, and we're going to do deep dives into some controversial topics. And the last one, Weather Forecast, is really going to focus on interpretations of prophetic scriptures, not limited to the Bible, meaning the book, but also inside of things that are referenced as apocrypha, but all things that are scriptures. We're going to be talking about different prophetic words that have been spoken and the manifestation of those things that we are seeing right now in real time. So I also want to tell you that as far as on Telegram, some of you might have subscribed to the African Esquire Telegram. I would encourage you, if you want to get exclusives, including not just the articles that I'm going to be posting, but I'm actually going to be trying to live stream from Telegram. The reason is I still believe that's probably the best platform that I've found as far as having an alternative to YouTube. I encourage you to subscribe. There's going to be some things that I'm not even going to post on YouTube because I already know if you say certain things about certain people that it could just basically be completely not just what's the word, pulled from YouTube. But I think we're actually going to start seeing a lot less of these warnings. So for example, some people have a video removed, some people get a strike I think you're going to see a lot of channels being wiped out very soon with little warning. And so because of that, because I've always said that, and I've always believed that the censorship is only going to get worse, there's some things I'm not even going to entertain by putting on YouTube. So if you want to subscribe to the Telegram, where I'm going to also be live streaming, but also I will be posting exclusive content, you can go over there. Also, I will continue to post on Odyssey, particularly those videos that I don't want to put on YouTube. So that will be the Tuesday format as far as the live show on Tuesday. Also, throughout the week, I'll be releasing the individual segments. So let's say you're more interested in one segment over the other, you know, we'll divide them up and release them as their own individual video throughout the week. The other thing, as far as what I call the Black Child Advocacy Network, I want to continue the work as far as advocating for the children of African children. So many of us are being victimized by the system, and so because of that, I've started the Black Child Advocacy Network. That will be a live show, but also it will be a means of helping Black parents to organize and also to talk about what we can do collectively to help our children. So that will be a live show on Saturday. Now, I'll warn you all about live shows. So as I said, I'm now located inside of the beautiful mother continent. The one thing about that, though, is that things like internet could be unpredictable, which is why the full format of the Tuesday show, which is going to be the full African Exodus format of the long format of the show, is not going to be live, because I know certain things like connection or things like that can be an issue. So that's just to say, you know, if connection's bad, please keep that in mind as far as the Saturday broadcast. Also, as far as whether or not I don't post a video, know that it could be the fact that I might have lost power, because when you're living inside of occupied Africa, you're basically subjected to a lot of difficulty when it comes to connection. We should all know this by now, right? But that's basically it as far as an introduction to where we're going. So I'm actually very excited. I think we're going to have fun and do a lot more things that I wanted to do, but might have felt intimidated from doing. I feel definitely more freer, not just being here, but also just in the past few months, I've just been going through a real process of being processed, you know, for this new assignment. And so I hope to really be a lot more raw and give you all a lot more helpful information. So with that, I am going to sign off, and tomorrow I will be broadcasting the first full format episode of African Exodus, and I hope to see you all there.